Radio Network.
Hey, you new to the area or just want to know about the best hidden gems and upcoming events? Stay tuned. Be Local Buzz with Devin takes you to these places, introduces you to the best businesses, and tells you about upcoming buzz. Preset your radio to Tan Talk 1340 AM or 106.1 FM every Thursday from 4 to 5. That is the Be Local Buzz with Devin on Tan Talk 1340 AM and 106 FM every Thursday from 4 to 5. Looking forward to speaking with you.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
It's now time for Connecting Caregivers with author, speaker, caregiver advocate, and talk show host Linda Burhans, the gal who cares for caregivers.
Around the world today, it's time to lift you up. It's time to celebrate. Good afternoon and welcome to Connecting Caregivers with me, Linda Burhans, the gal who cares for the caregivers, with love, laughter, and lessons learned. A little befuddled this morning because right when I went to go out my front door to pick up Lynn to come to the show, my dog ran out the front door. And I was running around the neighborhood looking for Charlie. And Charlie wasn't coming back, and it made me really nervous. And so I have wonderful neighbors. They all came out. I'm like, I got to go do the show. And they're like, go. We'll find Charlie. Not to worry. Lynn said, don't bother me picking me up. I'll go to your place because Charlie knows me. And right before, when I was a couple blocks before the station, they called me and they have Charlie. But my heart's still like beating out of my chest, right, Ed?
I've been there.
Oh,
I've been there.
It's like, well, you know, he's usually pretty good. When I say I'm going to work, he knows I'm going to work and he doesn't come near the door or anything. But now the new thing is when I go to work, I put on like soundscapes music for him.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he knows I'm definitely going then. I think once I put that music on, went by the front door, he was like, ow.
Yeah.
So no more.
They know. I mean, my dog knows when I start getting dressed.
Yeah.
Goes to his bed and lays down.
Yeah. Yeah, they're smart.
Yeah, they know.
Why would he want to go out on 4th of July with like firecrackers and stuff?
My dog has gotten so smart that when he does something like take something that he's not supposed to, and I'm talking like maybe something like one time I had to run real quick. I left a sandwich right at the edge of the counter.
Yeah.
Came back and it was gone.
Uh-oh.
But there was like a bowl or something, and he managed to get the bowl. He hides the bowl.
Oh my God.
You know, so you don't walk in and see the bowl.
Right.
And he hides the bowl. And then you clean it like, there's the bowl. You did take that. So, they're very smart.
I don't know. But anyway, he's home safe. Thank goodness. So thank you, Lynn. And thank you to my neighbors if you're listening for helping me. I really appreciate it. And if you're listening, Charlie, you're in big trouble. I want to give a shout out to our newest listeners. We have Georgia in Clearwater. We have Chelsea in Largo. And we have Diane in St. Pete. And like Lynn would always say, welcome, ladies. And I always say there's plenty of room around the Connecting Caregivers table for more listeners. Whether you listen to us live on the station or on YouTube or Facebook or my website or wherever they'll take us, we're just here to help you find help and hope. Because I know your caregiving journey is not easy. And most of the times it's unexpected or it comes on so gradually you don't even realize it. You know, many times it's an accident, a stroke, or a fall that brings you into your caregiving journey. But many times you're just slowly but surely taking care of your mom or your dad or your spouse, and you're watching them decline in whatever their issues are. But even then, lots of times people don't even consider themselves a caregiver. They're like, I'm the faithful spouse. I'm the good daughter. I'm the nice neighbor. And I say, well, if you're doing this, and this, you're a caregiver. So I had to educate caregivers on who they were before I could even help them. But we're talking about it a lot more today. So that's really good. So do we have Rebekah on the line?
I'm here, Linda.
Hi, how are you today?
Good. How are you?
Joyful and grateful.
Happy Independence Day.
Thank you. So, in fact, me and Charlie this morning, we went out and we flagged our neighborhood. I have like 50 flags. and we just go around and we stick them in the garden of everybody in our little cul-de-sac. It looked
That's
very,
so fun.
yeah, it was very beautiful. Makes me happy. Um,
Absolutely.
so Rebekah, how do you say your last name?
Dowhy.
Okay, I thought so. So Rebekah and I had met a couple of months ago, I guess it is now.
Yeah.
I love what she's doing. She's the president of the Caregiving Support Network. And for years, she took care of her mom until her mom went to the Lord. And Rebekah founded the Caregiving Support Network ministry to provide prayer-centered community and practical help to those walking alongside aging or ill loved ones. And I always say, I don't know how you can do your caregiving journey without faith.
Absolutely.
Without faith.
Couldn't have made it through without God.
So tell us a little bit more about yourself and your story.
Yeah, well, thank you, first of all, for having me on. It's so much fun to be here. But a little bit of my background as a caregiver. So my mom was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis the year that I was born. So I grew up into caregiving alongside my dad. So I became my mom's one of her primary caregivers alongside my dad when I was a teenager. And when he was at work, I would be there with her. When he got off on the weekends, that would give me time to catch up on school, work part-time jobs and all that. It was very hectic, but we made it through, like you said, with faith. And it was the most beautiful part, thing in my life, and also the most heartbreaking at the same time.
Yeah. And it's just like I say all the time to caregivers. I said, your caregiving experience can be the most horrific experience of your life or beautiful, depending on how you handle it.
1,000%.
Yeah. And we're all learning every day with everything in life. And no one really prepares you to be a caregiver.
No, not at all. And for me, I almost consider myself blessed that I grew up as a caregiver because it was normal life for me.
Yeah.
But something that was something my dad didn't get the benefit of. He all of a sudden, there's symptoms happening. My mom started losing certain abilities, and he just had to figure it out as he went along.
Yeah.
And that's the case of a lot of the caregivers we work with at CSN, because sometimes I'm thinking of one particular caregiver who was from Florida. She went to Georgia just to see family, and her mother passed away while she was there, and she inherited the care of her brother who has a brain injury, and never got to go back to her home. All of her stuff was sent to storage, left her career behind, and just has been caregiving for years now, and is in a little town in Georgia, left everything.
Yeah, and you know what? That's not the first time I've heard a story like that.
Yeah.
And all the years I've been doing this and all the different people I've talked to, you never know when you're going to become a caregiver. Unless you were born into being a caregiver.
Yes, that's right. But, I think everyone in some way has had their life touched by caregiving, whether they realize it or not.
Yeah.
1 in 5 Americans are family caregivers. And I think you were saying that some of them don't even know that they are caregiving.
No.
But they are.
Well,
if you're providing care to a loved one in any way, you're a caregiver, whether it's a disability you can see or something you can't see, like a mental illness.
Well, that Rosalind Carter quote, you are a caregiver, you have been a caregiver, you will be a caregiver, or someone will be taking care of you. And so when I speak, I tell everybody it's an equal opportunity employer. You're all going to get an opportunity, and we're all going to get an opportunity. But you know what? I felt privileged to have my caregiving experience with my mother.
I did too.
And I think it's all how you look at it and how you handle it, because I think people also think that their caregiving journey is supposed to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing in life is perfect. And me personally, sometimes sloppy is a little better.
Yeah, and it's real, raw, gritty life. It's not a perfectly packaged experience. It doesn't have a specific start or end date for a lot of us. a lot of times you're in the midst of it and you have no idea what the future will hold. You just have to take it one day at a time.
You know, a caregiver said to me one time, so I felt like when my mother got diagnosed that she had a death sentence, and I feel like I had to take care of her. I got a death sentence, and I thought, baby, you're never going to make it through. You need to come to a support group. You need to meet people that are going through the same thing. You need to know
it's
that
very,
you're not alone.
Yeah, it's very isolating. And that's the thing that I think was interesting with my dad and I caregiving together, because there's that generational gap. But we were facing very similar challenges. And one of the first challenges that we saw in our own lives and we see now with this nonprofit is isolation.
Yeah.
Because you're pouring so much into your loved one that sometimes you don't have time to go meet a friend for coffee, or you can't leave your loved one alone to do that. And so, that's part of why we wanted to found this ministry, to bring the community to them and to their doorstep.
Well, there were gifts of COVID. I call them the gifts of COVID because we started doing Zoom. We started doing anything. For me personally, I got to reach caregivers through support groups that I never would have been able to.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm glad
Absolutely.
that we have that.
It's funny you bring that up, because I feel like a lot of people's COVID experience where they were isolated in their house, they got a taste of what everyday life is for caregivers for years.
Yeah.
Years and years.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit. Give me a good story. I always love a good story. Give me a good story about somebody from the caregiver. I love a good story.
Yeah, well, I love hearing Lisa's story. She was the first caregiver that we helped through the ministry. We've been around for about 3 years. And Lisa connected to us in just a really cool way. But she was the sole caregiver for her mom, and still is, for her mom, Betty. And they had a very beautiful relationship that reminded me a lot of me and my mom when my mom was alive, where we were just so close. And one thing Lisa emphasized to me in her intake interview was, I love my mom. Want to not caregive for her and take care of her. I consider it a privilege, but I am so tired and I'm so worn out.
Yeah.
I can't go anywhere. They shared a room.
Oh, goodness.
So that she could care for her through the night. And she was just burned out. I mean, completely. For her, all of her finances went to her mom, all of her emotions. She had no time to connect with, any kind of faith community, because that would involve leaving her mother.
Right.
And as far as taking care of herself, that wasn't even an option that she was able to think about at the time. And we started really small. I mean, the thing we do at CSN, at the Caregiving Support Network, is we come in and first of all take them out of isolation. So we connect our caregivers with a prayer partner, and that's somebody who is calling them regularly, maybe even texting them if they don't have energy for a phone call. Maybe it's a text,
right,
that says, you're not alone. I'm here for you. And if you need to vent or scream at somebody, you can do that. Or if you need me to tell you a joke, give you a laugh, or maybe I'll share this scripture verse, and
right. Just tell me what you need.
Yeah. Tell me what you need. I'm here for you.
And I think that's the most fabulous thing that you and I and a lot of other people are doing for caregivers. We're giving them a lot of education and trying for them to tell us what you need. Tell us what you need.
I think what they need is somebody to listen, somebody who gets it. Yeah. And that's what we're hearing. That's what Lisa needed.
Yeah.
She's like, I just feel so alone.
Yeah.
And so we worked with her for a while, about a year or two. And not only did the prayer partner, but also helped with meal delivery so that she could take a couple nights off of cooking for a little bit. Just really, really practical. We're all about being practical here. We like to do something that actually changes their day-to-day life. We think that is very, very important.
Which can be a very simple thing.
Exactly. It can be very simple. And for her, it was just, hey, I don't have to think about food tonight. It's taken care of. It's coming to my door.
Yeah.
And so, long story short, fast forward to today, and Lisa has been able to go out into her community, reconnect with her group of friends. She even has an amazing partner now who supports her in every way.
Wow.
Yes, and he brought some kids along as well into her life, and she has just a wonderful relationship and a built-in support system now. And that's our goal. That's our goal with CSN, is that, you come in alone and isolated, and you go from that to being into a community. And if it's your local community, even better. Even better. We want to bring you back into that circle of support.
One of my mantras all the time is be open to the possibilities. And I didn't learn that as well until I was older. Just be open to the possibilities, because when you're open to the possibilities, there are answers. And there are other
Right.
people on the other end of that possibility there to help you. Because basically, we're all exactly the same. We want our health. We want to be loved. We want a roof over our head. We may have different hobbies. We may have different interests. But basically, we're exactly the same. And when you realize that, you get to connect with so many more cool people.
Yeah. Well, there's just something special about connecting with somebody who gets it. And I mean,
and connecting with the Lord and the Spirit too.
Absolutely. And that's the best feedback we've gotten from our caregiving families, is it's just so nice to find someone who understands. Because I think a lot of times when people hear, I'm taking care of my mom, sibling, or, whoever, they think, you just do a couple things for them. Maybe you do their laundry or you cook their meals for them. But it's so much more all-consuming than that.
And a lot of it is even just the mental part of it.
Yes, absolutely.
Because you're always worried, is mom going to fall? Did mom take her medicine? Is mom eating?
Yeah.
Did mom bathe? What can I do for mom? Who's going to take mom to the doctor? Whatever the scenario is.
Exactly.
But yeah. So, and you know what the thing is? We're living so much older. So we're all going to be going through this. So let's work together. Let's share together. And not just in your little community, just in your neighborhood. A woman on the back of my business card, it says the person I'm with has Alzheimer's or dementia, may not understand clearly what you're saying. Thank you for your patience, which is great if you're in a restaurant or somewhere. But a woman came to the support group and took a couple of cards, and a few days later she called me and she said, can I have 14 more cards? I'm like, 14?
Wow.
Sure. So
specific number.
Yeah, I'm like, okay. So I leave her probably 15 or 20 in an envelope underneath the cushion by my front door, and she comes in, she gets them, and she comes back to the next support group, and she's like, those cards saved my life. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Well, she lives in a mobile home community, and her husband has dementia, and he's starting to wander in people's yards. And when he walks the dog, he's not always cleaning up the poo. And they're looking at him not so nicely. So she said, Linda, I took one card and gave it to every neighbor. And the neighbors said, he can come in our yard. We'll clean up the poo. Maybe he would like some lemonade.
Oh, wow. Oh, I love that story. And I think that just shows, people want to help, but a lot of times they're just not aware of what caregivers are going through.
Right.
Because it's hidden. Right. I've always called it the biggest hidden community in America, because they're not usually out there at the places that a typical person would be able to go to get together with their friends or their colleagues.
But there's so much of it today, unfortunately, but there is so much of it today that wherever you live, you have a neighbor that's believe me, you have a neighbor that has some kind of cognitive impairment or whatever. I was doing a live support group a couple of months ago, and this new woman came in and people were talking around the table, and and a gentleman said to her, I'm your neighbor. And she said, what? And then she looked at him and said, oh, yeah, you are. I see you walking with your wife. He goes, I see you walking with your husband. Well, both his wife and her husband have dementia.
Wow.
Nobody knew it before, right?
1 in 5. So if you're listening to this and you're not a caregiver, you know somebody.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know somebody, and what I want you to do today is I want you to call them up and tell them what a great job they're doing.
Please do.
And maybe just do something for them. Like when you go to the supermarket, get the BOGO and bring it to their house. Or just bring some dinner over, or just bring their garbage cans in, or just mow their lawn.
And I love that too, because when I was a caregiver, if someone asked, what can I do to help? Sometimes I was just so burnt out, I couldn't even think.
Oh, that's
and
what.
so having people just be
do
like,
it.
hey, I'm going to bring dinner.
Yep.
And it's like, okay, thanks. And
Yeah.
I'm not going to stay. You don't have to clean your house before I come over. I'm going to drop it off on the porch. Even better.
Exactly. Because you know what? When you say to a caregiver, what can I do for you? This is what they're thinking. Oh, one more thing I got to put on my list. What can you do for me? You know,
Right.
So.
And you know, the first thing to go when a caregiver's stressed is taking care of themselves.
Yeah. Well, you know, I suggested that they make a list. Do make a list. So then when somebody asks you, just give them the list and say, pick out one thing. And I suggested some people, you invite people over and you tape that list on your bathroom mirror. And then when they go in to use the washroom, they can pick out something on the list to help you with.
That's perfect.
It works. All right. So what's the last thing you want our listeners to hear from you today, and where can they find you?
So they can find us at caregivingsupportnetwork.org. And whether you're a caregiver or maybe somebody who wants to get involved in the ministry as a volunteer or a donor, $33 gives us 1 hour of support to give a caregiver. So that gives the caregiver a full hour of support. And that covers emotional, spiritual, physical rest. That is so important for them.
Yeah.
But what I would want your listeners to know is that they're not alone. If you're caregiving, you feel like you're the only person in the world that's going through this. And I just want to assure you that there's a whole community out here that wants to pray with you and support you in your journey, because please don't try to do it by yourself.
No, it takes a village, and your village is here.
It is.
All right, my friend. We'll talk soon.
Thank you, Linda. It was great talking with you today. And happy Independence Day, everybody.
Thanks. Have a delicious day. And now it's time to hear from our wonderful partners, because you know the deal. If you don't hear from them, you don't hear from me. So don't go away. We'll be right back on Connecting Caregivers Radio.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
Arden Courts is not just a place to live. It's a place to call home. Residential living combined with quality caregiving. This is the philosophy behind Arden Courts. Communities created exclusively for individuals with Alzheimer's disease and related dementia who would benefit from a safe and structured environment. For additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides, call 888-478-2410 to locate a community nearest you. Inquire about our educational seminars, resource library, or support groups, or simply feel free to ask questions you may have about Alzheimer's and related dementias. At Arden Courts, we know, we understand, and we can help, because memory care is all we do. Remember, call 888-478-2410 for additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides.
Are you getting older, or are you taking care of somebody who is? You know, getting older creates new problems you probably never imagined. One of the big ones is, how do you pay for care? Care in your home, care in an assisted living facility, or care in a nursing home. Did you know that nursing home care in our community can cost up to $12,000 per month? For the last 33 years, our offices help families access benefits, including Medicaid, VA, and PACE, to help pay for the cost of long-term care. Regardless of what your assets are or what your income is, you can qualify for these benefits. Proper planning and guidance are absolutely necessary to avoid being wiped out. Let us help. If you are in care or heading in that direction, we can help solve that problem. Take action now to obtain benefits to pay for the cost of care. Here are the 4 things that you need to do. 1, get a new power of attorney. Your old one probably isn't good enough. Get a healthcare surrogate and a living will. 3, get an estate plan that will not disqualify you from benefits. And 4, get a plan to qualify for Medicaid, PACE, or VA benefits to pay for the long-term care costs. Call us today for a free consultation, 727-539-0181, or go to flmedicaid.com and download our free book, on Medicaid and planning for long-term care. I'm Sean Scott. I'm here to help.
Guaranteed to make you laugh through your tears, Linda Burhan's book, Good Night and God Bless, is filled with humor and heartfelt inspiration to aid anyone facing the challenge of caring for a loved one at the end of life. Her story offers hope for human strength and understanding of weaknesses during a difficult time. Life doesn't normally prepare us to become a loved one's caregiver. When it happens, it's usually sudden. A diagnosis of an illness, age-related frailty, dementia, and life suddenly is anything but normal. And because we don't even know what we don't know, where do we turn to for help or guidance? In Connecting Caregivers, Answers to the Questions You Didn't Know You Needed to Ask, Linda offers information, education, and inspiration from her own experience and from experts whose advice, practical tools, and personal stories will empower and guide you. Make sure to add these inspiring books to your collection today. Available on Amazon.com.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
And we're back. It was wonderful speaking with Rebekah. So, check out the Caregiving Support Network. I think you'll find a lot of resources there. And now we have on the line my friend, Mr. Chad Harper.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Joyful and grateful. So I have to tell a little bit about our story. We're going to talk about some things today, and then you're going to come on the show again in the future and talk about some more things. But we met, I don't know how many years ago, 13, 15 years ago, maybe?
I think at least, probably like 2011, I think.
So anyway,
14,
around then. So I had written this article about kindness and submitted it to a website. And it got a couple of views, not too much. And then a couple of months later, they moved it on the website. And when they moved it on the website, it got a whole bunch more views. And I get this email from Chad, who I do not know. And he says, your article has inspired my students to write a song. Can you give me your email? I'm like, heck yes. And a few days later, I get this song, Random Acts of Kindness.
Right.
It was like so cool. And then you were in Brooklyn. I'm from Long Island. My dad lives in Manhattan. And I came to New York and we visited and we got together. And then we talked about caregiving. And then you wrote me a song about caregivers. And that is the song that we use when we introduce the show now. That is the song that
No way.
Yes, every day now for 8 years. Every show. Our show starts out with that caregiver song. And
you have to send that back to me. I have to listen to that.
You do. And every conference, I'm doing my 9th virtual conference now. We play that song like 5 or 6 times during the conference, and people say, "Where can I get a copy of it?" So
wow, that's fantastic.
You never know. You just never know. You just never. And then you met my granddaughter Skylar, who now has 2 children.
Right.
So who knows?
Wow.
So tell our listeners a little bit just about who you are and your journey.
Yeah. So I moved to New York probably in 1998. My journey in music started, as a kid, but I moved to New York because I love hip hop culture. But in New York, I think was when I got there, the culture of hip hop kind of changed. It was more like party and gangster stuff and this and that, and it wasn't like more the educational stuff I grew up on.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when I started Hip Hop Stays Live to like inspire local artists in the community to make inspiring music. And I was volunteering for an organization called Charity Water. And just one day, I just wrote a hip-hop song celebrating all the work they did with these cocktail events to raise water for clean water wells in Africa. And it was a huge hit there at their events. And, it just inspired me. Like, okay, this is the path that I want to do with hip-hop music. I want to celebrate everyday heroes, community leaders, activists, just inspiring people through hip-hop.
Kids.
Yeah, and kids, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I started this campaign, and yeah, we were just
Because
combing the
those
internet
kids
for
are like
just
little
inspiring
those
stories.
kids are like little sponges.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they are. But what comes out of them, like some of them have never written a song before, and then you give them this opportunity, and it's just like, wow.
Yeah.
They're even surprised of what comes out, the lyrics, and just their ability to write and perform and record and inspire others through their creativity. They just never had the opportunity.
Well, creativity is so important. So important. And if you're living in a troubled household or I hate to say it, a low income household or you're living somewhere where you don't have anything like that. Creativity lots of times gets stuck by the side because you're just looking to survive.
That's very true.
But when you can bring that,
a lot of inner city.
Go ahead.
A lot of inner city schools have gone away from creativity, which is like the heart and soul of a lot of kids who are going through a lot of stuff.
Well, and kids too that have challenges, kids that have ADHD, kids that have whatever they have. If you can let them shine through their creativity, then they can shine through a whole bunch of other stuff too.
Yeah, exactly. I always tell people and parents, I'm in the business of building self-esteem, but through creative art, getting kids to say, "Wow, I'm good at this," and getting their teachers and their students, their co-students, their classmates, to just celebrate them, build their self-esteem, and then it rolls over to school and to regular life.
Well, it was interesting. Yesterday was my daughter's birthday, and we were all together for dinner, and my granddaughter Skylar was there, and we were playing a game where you flip over a card and you ask a question. And one of the questions, and the question that Skylar got was, what's something really cool that you did when you were a kid? And Skylar said, I wrote a book, because she went to a writer's camp when she was like 7 years old. And she wrote a book. It's a 7-year-old book. It's a very cute little book. The title is all about me. But she wrote a book. And that sticks in her mind still to now. Now she's a mom with 2 children. That sticks in her mind that she did that and that made her feel good.
Yeah.
And whatever it is, they don't have to write a book. They could just journal. They can just, like you say, write a little song, a little tune. Yeah. So let's talk about go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was just saying it's just planting seeds, and you'd be amazed at how they grow.
Yeah. So you've been traveling like all over the world.
Yeah.
I never know where I'm going to see you next. Thank God for Facebook. But now you have a new album coming out. I Am a Black American. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, I released it about 2 weeks ago. I Am Black American. I have traveled to, I think, 63 countries. And in those travels, 12 were in Africa. And, as a Black American going back to Africa, it's just, there's just a lot that emotionally you go through,
Yeah.
Your ancestors are from there, but you don't know from where. There's so many different cultures, and there's 54 countries, but there's thousands of tribes. And before colonization, each tribe was a separate country.
Wow.
Same in the United States. There was, I think, 566 Native American tribes, and each one was a separate country. So there's just a lot you're taking in, and it's really traveling across Africa made me really realize, okay, I am Black American. What does that mean?
Exactly.
Because I'm not African. I don't know their traditions and cultures.
Right.
So you can't really say, hey, I'm African,
Right.
So then it's like, okay, I'm Black American. What does that mean? So I started researching a lot of Black American history, things that we were never taught in school, and then writing songs about that. And then that caused me to reflect on Black American experiences as a child, as a young adult, as a mature adult.
Right.
And then some experiences across Africa. So I just put that into volume 1, of the album because it's just an ongoing experience. I go back to Africa every year, different countries. Last year, I think it was only Gambia and Morocco. But yeah, so the album is just like kind of a personal journey.
Yeah.
Of really telling myself and researching to educate myself on what it means to be Black American.
Yeah, and who I am, and
who I am,
and the opportunities they are, and the people I've met, and the things I've learned.
Yeah,
that's all who makes you who you are, whether you're a Black American, a Purple American, or a Green American.
Right.
You know, but for you to have that opportunity to go back to your roots is huge.
It really is, because it changes my perspective on everything, and it really made me really want to know much more about the 400 years of my ancestors being in the United States.
Yeah.
And another thing that really stood out to me, like if you're Black and you're born in Germany, you're just called German. Or if you're Black and you're born in Sweden, you're considered Swedish.
Real interesting.
In the United States, say it again?
Interesting.
Yeah, they don't have these terms, Black American. They don't say Black German, Black Swede, Black
right.
British, you know?
Right.
But in the United States, we say, oh, I'm Italian American, Irish American,
right,
Chinese American, Black American, you know, Mexican American. Because if you're born in Mexico, you don't consider the Mexicans born in Texas as Mexican, even though there might be 100% DNA Mexican, but you're not Mexican. You're Mexican American.
Chad, I think I think I'm a mutt American.
Right, yeah, exactly. And you know, there's stories on my next album where, like, I have a Choctaw Indian great grandmother, and I have an Irish great grandmother, both on my mom's side. So also being American is we are mutt. Yeah, we are. And that's part of our story, you know.
Yeah. But the thing is, finding our story. People go through their lives and they don't find their story. You know, they don't take the time to think about it. As families, you know, we're so busy today. We don't sit down and talk as much as we used to. Right. But I think it's coming back. And I think that's important.
So. Yeah.
Well, I think that's the people like you and I that do that.
Yeah.
So now
for me, I'm go ahead.
Go ahead. You go ahead.
No, I just, for me, I feel like part of me is Black American, but not all of me. Because I've experienced so many travels in so many different countries and cultures, and I've taken in so much that, like, there's a lot of culture in other countries around the world that I absolutely love, that have, you know, altered me as a human being. So my root is Black American, but
I think I'm just a child of God.
Yeah.
You know, I've been doing a lot more traveling, and I've been going to other countries too, and you're surprised at how much we have in common. How very much we have in common. And I don't find myself usually as a judgmental person, but I did have some judgment. And then when I went there and I met the people that were there, I was like, oh my goodness, Linda, get over it. You know, just get over it. Because sometimes it's what you hear, but you don't know. But you don't know. One bad thing you can hear on the news or about this group or about that group, and then you're judging a whole country. Just kind of crazy.
If you really think about it, of how we do that. And we've all, I think, been guilty of that, you know?
Well, you know, I always say, especially when I'm speaking, I say, we're all the same schmoes. We want our health. We want a roof over our head. You know, we want our family. We may have different hobbies and we may have different interests, but basically we are exactly the same. And when you realize that, you know how many new friends you make? It's really cool. It's really cool. because we all are exactly the same.
Yeah.
You know, I just want my grandchildren to learn everything I learned after 50.
Right?
You
That's
know?
true.
You know, I wish I
Yeah.
knew all the stuff I knew now when I was 20 or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
But I'm glad I know it now. Some people don't know it now, so that's good at least.
People don't know it now. Very true.
Yeah. But we're here to help them with that.
Yeah.
You know, somebody said to me the other day, how come you have so many friends, Linda? And I said, first of all, I'm very blessed to have a few very close friends. And I am very blessed to have a bunch of other friends. I said, and I've just realized that I think God put me on this earth to motivate and inspire other people. And that's what I do. And that's why I have a whole bunch of friends. And she said, oh, okay. I'm like, whatever. So,
I love it.
so next it's going to be the book.
Yes, I'm writing the book now, which is just telling the experience, like a lot of experiences in these 12 different African countries. Like, this is why I started this album and this journey. I just want to share. Some stories are funny, some stories are sad, some stories are a bit ridiculous.
Yeah, that's okay. So when do you think that'll be ready?
Volume 1 will be released at the end of July.
Okay. So we'll have to book for you to come back on the show when you got a bunch of volumes, and we can talk about it and we can promote it. Because I'm sure it's very interesting because you're such an interesting guy. You are. And I miss you, and I hope sometime when you're in Brooklyn and I'm in Manhattan, maybe at the same time we can get together, or maybe I'll just come to Africa and visit you or something. Who knows? So 3 years ago, I decided that I'm going away once a month for the rest of my life. Even if it's one night.
No way.
Yeah, even if it's one night to Tampa, because I'm 72 years old this year, and I see what happens, right? I might have to care for a loved one, or something could happen to me, right? Yeah, I'm 72, whatever. So I've spent like a week with one sister, a week with another sister, to just spend time with my family. And then every year I take one big trip. So the first year I went to Peru. The second year I went to Portugal. And this past November I went to Egypt with my daughter.
Wow.
And I actually got to go paragliding over the pyramids.
So you're braver than me.
Oh, that's what my daughter says. Bye, Ma. I'll see ya. Have fun. But you know what an adventure, and taking time to spend time with my family and spending time, some of the work I do is kind of weary, is kind of sad. With Alzheimer's and dementia and everything. So I need to balance that. And I can't be telling my caregivers to take a break and do stuff if I'm not doing it.
Yep.
So in
I
fact,
love that.
Well, it was very funny. So 2 of my caregivers, I do a Zoom support group, and they live in Seattle, Washington. And they said to me, so when are you coming here? I said, so throw out a couple of dates. You know me. And a month later, I was there. And they're like, well, where do you want to go? Well, I've never been here. So anywhere you take me is fabulous.
Right.
So,
I love that, man. That is amazing.
Yeah, it makes me so happy. So I just got back from Pennsylvania. Next couple of weeks, I'll be in New York City. Then I'm going to Michigan. Then I'm going to Asheville, North Carolina. Then I'm going to Canada, and then back to New York City. So
wow.
We'll have to hook up somewhere, my friend. Or as I said, I might just have to come to Africa.
Yeah.
How cool.
I'm in Spain now. I spent the last 10 months in Spain, in Malaga, in the south. And right now, I'm actually in Gran Canaria Island for a couple months.
So cool.
Right across from Morocco.
How nice. How very nice.
Yeah.
And to get see this beautiful world that we live in.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful. Every time I go somewhere else, I'm just amazed. Just amazed. Well, thank you so much for being with me, my friend. We'll talk again soon. Where can our listeners find you?
Oh, yes. So for the album, you can go to Bandcamp and search Hip Hop Saves Lives. And then just I Am Black American is the latest release on Bandcamp.
It's B-A-N. How do you spell that?
BANDCAMP.
Okay. All right. And I'll put all the information in the show.
Okay.
All right, my
I'll send you
friend.
the link.
We'll talk soon. I love you.
Love you, Linda.
All righty. Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.
And now it's time to hear from our wonderful partners. So don't go away. We'll be right back on Connecting Caregivers Radio.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
Choosing the right chiropractor is an important choice to make. Located in Seminole, the Alexander Spine Center team is trained on the latest chiropractic treatments and technologies. At Alexander Spine Center, you'll find chiropractic and physical therapy care that is safe, effective, and a natural approach to pain and other health-related issues. Chiropractic unlocks your body's potential and natural healing process to ensure your life is a healthy life. We treat clients from the womb to the tomb. Call 727-397-3000 for a free consultation today, or visit our website at www.alexanderspinecenter.com.
They take good care of me twice a week, so check them out.
Arden Courts is not just a place to live. It's a place to call home. Residential living combined with quality caregiving. This is the philosophy behind Arden Courts. Communities created exclusively for individuals with Alzheimer's disease and related dementia who would benefit from a safe and structured environment. For additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides, call 888-478-2410 to locate a community nearest you. Inquire about our educational seminars, resource library, or support groups, or simply feel free to ask questions you may have about Alzheimer's and related dementias. At Arden Courts, we know, we understand, and we can help because memory care is all we do. Remember, call 888-478-2410 for additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides.
We believe the power of the human body and mind can do amazing things, and that tapping into that power, not just tricking it with a temporary disguise, is possible. Superpatch technology uses a special pattern and vibrotactile technology to help you go from feeling blah to hurrah. Now, once the Superpatch is in contact with your skin, it triggers a neutral response in the brainstem that helps you tackle your daily problems head on. Whether you're struggling with pain, balance, stress, or focus, we have a solution that might be right for you. With Superpatch's 30-day money-back guarantee, you have nothing to lose and everything to gain.
Hi, this is Linda Burhans, the gal who cares for the caregivers. I started using the Liberty Patch over 3 years ago. I used to be a tripper, but since wearing a Liberty Patch, I haven't tripped once. The Liberty Patch is proven to reduce the risk of falling by up to 8 times. And as we all know, if you prevent the fall, you prevent the call. Don't wait until it's too late. Preventative solutions are the answer.
Superpatch does not claim to diagnose, treat, or cure illness. Superpatch is FDA registered. To receive 25% off your first order, go to sticktoit.info. That's sticktoit.info and learn more.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
Yes, I love me my super patches. So last night I woke up with a Charlie horse. Oh, it was killing me. I'm hopping around the room. I'm trying to walk. I'm trying to do this. Finally, I'm like, Linda, put a freedom patch, put a pain patch on. I put it on. 5 minutes later, gone. I'm like, thank you. And also remember, I quit smoking cigarettes after 40 years from the Kick It patch. So it's been almost 3 months now. Good girl, Linda, I say, good girl. So it was great having our guest today, Rebekah, on the show, and Chad. I just love Chad. It was so good to hook up with him again. A couple of things coming up. Next week, we have Sages Theater. July 12th, they're at McCall Hall in St. Patrick's Church, Largo. July 19th, the Palladium in St. Pete. July 26th, Catherine Hickman Theater in Gulfport. And August 2nd, Pinellas Park Performing Arts. I just registered yesterday for the one on the 12th at St. Patrick's Church in Largo. It's so easy to do. You just go online, you register, it's free. If you don't register, there's still a possibility you get in, but if it's really crowded, you may not. So it really helps to register. And the new show that they're doing is Buckle Up, Seniors Drive, the comedy in Dealmaker. Also, there are a lot of Parkinson's programs at the Palms of Largo. There are Rock Steady Boxing, and there's a Parkinson's support group, and there's stretch and exercise classes. So much that really makes a difference in the lives of people with Parkinson's, especially the Rock Steady Boxing. So you can contact them if you're interested in any of that. You can contact Leah at 727-385-9881. Next Friday, I have a live support group at Arden Courts in Largo at 10 o'clock. You can RSVP at 517-780-00. Or just come if you need respite care. As long as you call ahead of time, you can bring your loved one with you, and they'll entertain them a bit while you come to the support group. So that might be a really good opportunity for you to get a little break and for your loved one to see what it's like in a community. Have a happy 4th of July, everybody. Please be really careful with fireworks. I don't know how many accidents I've heard of over the years that are not so good. Remember, tune in again next week for a fabulous show. God loves you all the time, and have a delicious day.